What's up, guys? In today's video we are doing another fire breakdown. This video is in addition to another video that I put out a few weeks ago where I talked all about flashover, some of the warning signs, how to handle a flashover, what happens if you're in a flashover, and all of that. In that video I mentioned that I was only using a portion of an entire fire clip that I would be breaking down. Well, this is that fire clip. This one comes from the Winston-Salem Fire Department. As always, I'll put the link to the original video in the description below. I want to give credit where credit's due. But when I watched this video, there were two big teachable moments from here. First of those is the warning signs of flashover, but also the importance of protecting exposures. So I wanted to go through this video. As always, none of this is Monday morning quarterbacking or saying that I know best. I'm sure there were a lot of officers and a lot of experience on here. And obviously this is a video where I can only see part of what's going on, and fire scenes are dynamic. But again, there were some really good teaching points that I wanted to go over. Okay, so one of the things I really like about this video is even though it was a little shaky, you got a pretty decent size up as someone showing up on scene. Obviously, when you talk about size ups, you want to see as many sides of the building as possible on your way in. But this is pretty good considering it's from a bystander on a cell phone camera. First few things that I noticed. Number one, this looks like it's a bit of an older neighborhood. Maybe 60s, 70s is when a lot of this construction was, and a lot of these houses are close together. When you're in a residential neighborhood like this and the houses are very close together and you have a lot of fire like you see coming out of the delta side of this building, you have to keep in mind that there are exposures that are either going to be damaged or catch fire. Obviously, your first priority is to put out the fire and to rescue any victims, but don't forget about protecting exposures. Second thing I noticed, you see power lines going to the house and right over the top. You saw a ladder truck pull up on scene. You see a bunch of firefighters standing underneath power lines. I'm sure they noticed and they were aware of this, but anytime you show up at any scene, make sure you look for those. You don't want to be in a situation where you're accidentally bumping into power lines that could cause a lot of problems. Next thing I notice is you see a fence around the front. That's just going to be another obstacle. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Think of it as a pinch point if you're dragging a lot of hose through there. It's potential for things to get hung up. It's just going to get in the way of a lot of things. It's not that big of a deal, but again, you want to just put it in the back of your mind. And then the last thing I noticed is this looks like this is a metal roof. And that's important for two reasons. Number one, obviously it was probably a newer roof. But also, number two, that means any of the heat, it's going to take quite a bit to get through that roof. It's not impossible. The biggest thing you're going to look for is if there's some sort of structural collapse from underneath, it's going to obviously get through that roof. But generally speaking, in your standard residential house fire, if there's a metal roof, that is going to hold in a lot of heat. So it's going to be very hot in this building. It's going to be very hot in this fire. So keep that in mind as you're showing up on scene as well. Let's keep going. Next thing I see that is a little bit concerning. There were a lot of people on the original video I was reading through the comments were really jumping all over this. This kind of goes back to the importance of reading smoke, and I'll talk about the flashover here in a little bit. But you see in the front door of this building, there are at least two, maybe three or four. We'll see when they back out here in a minute. There's firefighters already in that front door. It looks like they pulled a pre-connect 1.75" hand line. You have a lot of free burning fire on the Delta side. A lot of people were giving them a hard time saying they shouldn't have gone in there. Again, fire scenes are dynamic. I don't know if I necessarily disagree with their decision to kind of go in there and at least see what's going on. Like I said, they're going to be backing out of there here shortly. But you definitely want to address what's going on the Delta side. You want to hit that from the outside first for two reasons. A, so you can knock down the free burning fire, but also kind of protect that exposure. Maybe wait for somebody else to the second due engine or second due crew to be the ones to go interior if that's what you're going to be doing. But also the other thing that makes me nervous about putting people in this structure right now without knocking down that fire from the outside is you look at the amount of smoke and heat and free burning fire. I talked about this in more detail in the flashover video. There's 4 major signs of a flashover. Number 1 is rollover. That's not really applicable here because we're outside. You can't really see that. But one of the big things that causes flashover is the intense heat. There's free burning fire. You definitely have that. You saw that coming out of the Delta side of the building. The thick black smoke, like you see here, that thick, heavy black smoke means it's filled with fuel, which means if it reaches a certain temperature, all of that smoke will ignite, which you will see here shortly. And then the intense heat. Obviously, we can't feel the heat through a video, but I would imagine that it is pretty hot. At one point, I don't remember when, you'll hear the cameraman say something like, yeah, I feel that heat from all the way across the street. With a recipe of those things all put together, you need to be thinking in the back of your mind that, hey, this maybe not this second is going to flash, but we're heading in that direction unless we start getting a knock on the fire. All right, a couple things here. At this point, it doesn't really seem a few things. Nobody has pulled another line and has, or I say they pulled another line, but there's not another line in service that we could see putting water on the Delta side. I've talked about this in some of the other videos. The A side or the Alpha side is the front of the house facing the street. B side to the left, C side to the back, D side to the right. Where all that fire is, there's still no water going on that fire. And at this point, you're 3.5 minutes in. Who knows how long this has been burning or how long they've been on scene. You would think at some point they'd want to start getting water on that, and they will. I just wonder if it could have been done a little bit sooner. But again, this is not Monday morning quarterbacking. Fires are dynamic. There could have been other things going on that I'm not aware of and I can't see. The next thing, there's a lot of bystanders standing fairly close. It's always important if bystanders, none of them are really getting in the way of anybody. They're staying out of everybody's way, which is a good thing. But obviously you want to look out for them as well. They don't really know. They don't really see things like this all the time. They're just kind of milling around and kind of open mouth. Oh my God, what's going on? I got to see this. Especially when they're standing right underneath power lines like that, which brings me to my last point is there's people wandering underneath these power lines. It doesn't seem as though anybody's even noticed these power lines yet until they come down here in a minute. But yeah, so those are some of the other things I see. Let's keep going.
feel the heat. You feel that heat? Trae la moto para acá.
So this is obviously where all that smoke is igniting from the heat and the free burning fire. And this is a bad situation. You notice, I don't know if you noticed this, if you want, rewind the video just a little bit. You see one of the firefighters that backed out looked like he was going to take the hand line over to that D side and start putting some water on the delta side of this fire, which at this point, we're almost 5 minutes into this video, which means we're maybe 10 minutes into this fire and still no water has been put on that delta side. That's not good at this point. You really need to get a 2.5, and you need to get a lot of water on that fire quickly. And you also need to get, it doesn't even necessarily need to be a 2.5, but you need to get another line in service to be cooling off and protecting that exposure. I'm sure the Bravo side of that neighboring home that on that exposure is very hot at this point. It probably melted the siding, would be my guess. But whoever was maybe it was another firefighter, another officer, kind of pulled the line out of that guy's hand as he was trying to go over, looked like to go put water on the D side. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. But I think that firefighter had the right idea of, listen, this thing's going. We need to start getting a knock on this fire. We're going to start putting water on this D side. I think he was probably correct, but who knows? Let's keep going.
Ya está, si se ve la foto. La gente salió. Mira que empezó. Fíjate. Watch out for that line, bro. Hey. Thank you.
Okay, so at this point now, it looks like they have, they're putting water on the Bravo side of the structure, the Alpha side of the structure right there on the front. I don't know if you noticed, if you want to rewind the video a little bit, it looked like somebody had pulled a line around the back of the house and was at the Charlie Delta, the CD corner of the house. It looks like they are now beginning to get some water on the exposure, but at this point still, again, we're 6 minutes and 40 seconds into this video, and there still hasn't been a significant amount of water put on the Delta side of this fire, where this fire has been free burning this entire time, the worst part of this fire, but we have water going on the Bravo side. I don't really understand why. Again, I always tread lightly and try not to dunk on other people or tell other people they don't know what they're doing, because that's definitely not the case. I wonder why they're putting water on the Bravo side and not really focusing on that Delta side. But at least they are putting water on the exposure and beginning to cool it at this point. All right, so that's pretty much it for the purposes of this video. They go on to get the ladder in service and start putting a lot of water from this ladder truck onto that Delta side, continue to cool the exposure and continue to hit it from outside. Obviously, at this point, it seems as though this house is probably a total loss. My guess is what they were trying to do was trying to get that ladder truck in service more quickly to get a ton of water coming from above. There were some people that I was reading through the original video that were very upset over the fact that they were using a ladder truck on a residential fire. I don't really see the problem with doing that. I don't think it might have been totally necessary on this fire, but I mean, if you have the tools, use the tools at your exposure. Obviously, people have a lot of opinions on that as well. But as always, I wanted to go over two more things. The two biggest things from this, learning points from this, is A, know the warning signs of flashover. Thankfully, that crew got out of there in time. They obviously picked up on the warning signs of that flashover, but just know that going into that. Make sure you watch that video if you haven't already. I've put it up here at some point. And then the other thing, remember, you always want to protect those exposures. There's a corny expression out there: put the wet stuff on the red stuff. Get water on that D side. Get water on that free burning fire from outside as soon as you can. And when it's that much of a fire load and it's that big of a fire, it's a good idea if you can to get a 2.5 in service. Get a lot of water on there as quickly as you can. So as always, I hope you found that useful and helpful. If you did, give this video a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.